Okay, before this video starts, this is my setup. I bought this just the other day, and I might be the most uneducated, least prepared, stupid YouTube person to exist on the planet because my dumb ass didn't realize that you need lights for a green screen to actually function properly. I also decided to record this video wearing black and grey, the colors of the shadow on the green screen. So I have made this process a lot harder than it needed to be. I hate this world. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so I've had people tell me that I'm not a games journalist. I'm not a games journalist. Are you kidding me? I know gaming. I have covered gaming, and I am going to talk about gaming. Now you see, what some of you people don't know about me is that I've covered wars, you know. Hey everyone, it's me, the Gamer Chair Gamer, and today I am here to talk about a franchise that is very near and dear to my heart. One that I previously thought was dead, pun intended. Dead Rising previously released for the Xbox 360 back in 2006, and hot damn dog was it a video game. Hundreds of zombies on screen, check. Decapitation with awesome weapons, check. A serious story with a bit of a silly tone, check. Dead Rising was hitting every single box, and it was really standing out as a unique video game of its time. Being able to cook a goddamn pizza like the little chef you always knew you could be? Hell yeah. I think games were a lot more creative back in the day than they are today, and I mean, they had to be, right? 3D was still kind of a new concept, so developers were trying all sorts of different wacky stuff to try and figure out what does and doesn't work. This led to some amazing games, and of course it led to the game series that we're going to be talking about today, Dead Rising. Because Dead Rising isn't just your ordinary zombie game, no, it is doing something different, something that no other game would do. What was that little thing? How about world interactivity? That's right, unlike other loser video games back in the day, in this game you were able to interact with the world and all of the items in the world. This game was set in a mall, and do you know what's in a mall? Well, I'll give you a little hint. Items. And you could interact with absolutely everything. You could change your clothes, you could do zombie bowling. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but I seen it for sale for $6,000 and now I have to buy it. But there were hundreds of items that you could use to pick up and kick some serious zombie ass, and Frank had unique animations for all of them. You want to stand there for 2 hours and throw plates at zombies' heads just because it's funny? Go ahead. You want to throw a pie in a zombie's face because it's funny? Go ahead. And guess what? There's a unique animation for that too. It's incredible. I love this. And you can also just whack zombies with a toy laser sword. It does absolutely nothing, but it's something you can do. And if you are watching this, Mr. Developer, whoever put that in the game, I thank you. Because all of this to me is what made Dead Rising so great. And there are a ton of other things as well, which I'll get into in a little bit, but the world interactivity was definitely the big standout thing. Just being able to interact with everything and hit zombies with anything you can find in the mall was such a unique premise, and yet one that's so obvious when you think about it. And a lot of these weapons are completely useless in zombie killing. It's kind of that question of they were so focused on if they could, they didn't ask whether they should. But in this case, the answer was yes, they absolutely should, because it's great, it's amazing, I love this. Now, the other thing that makes Dead Rising so great is, of course, the timer. The timer is something that a lot of newborn baby gamers are gonna hate, and to be honest, I don't blame them. You have this really amazing mall that you want to explore and look around and mess with everything, but you can't because you have this stupid annoying timer that is constantly pushing you to do quests, and if you don't do them in time, then you miss them. It means really the only way you can mess around in this game is to go and save and then just start messing around, completely ignoring the timer while it tells you what a failure you are. Now, this is definitely a solution to the problem, but it also kind of makes you go out of your way a little bit. You know, while you're running around exploring the mall and you see that cool store that you want to go and mess about in, but you realize you can't because if you do, you're going to miss this quest. Going to save and then coming back to that store just doesn't hit the same as it would if you were to just go in it naturally and just start messing around. So I do get the argument that you know, a lot of gamers aren't going to like the timer. That makes sense to me. I understand it. However, it is a staple of the Dead Rising franchise, and without it, it isn't really a Dead Rising game, which again is something that we will circle back around to later. All that to say though, the timer isn't really that strict. You do actually have a lot of time to mess around and do a bunch of things, as well as doing a lot of the quests, but that stress that gets put on people by it, because there's a little voice in the back of your head just constantly saying, hey, you're gonna run out of time and miss this epic quest, that can be annoying for a lot of people. So again, I do get why people don't like the timer. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get you. But all of this does lead on to my next point, and that's that Dead Rising is supposed to be played more than once. It is supposed to be played twice. No, I'm kidding. It's supposed to be played a lot. You see, New Game Plus was a thing all the way back in 2006. I don't know if Dead Rising was the first game to do it. Probably not, but I'm going to stand here very confidently and say, yes. Yes, it did. So, as the first game that did New Game Plus, it was a new interesting mechanic, and it worked kind of interesting because when you start a new game, you take all of your PP, and you take it into the new save with you. So that means all of the skills that you've earned through playing the game, you know, you can run a bit faster now, you get cool combat mechanics and cool moves that you can do. All of that stuff you take into the new game, as well as knowledge of the mall layout, shortcuts, survivor locations, yada yada yada. You learn the game and you get to do it again, but better. That has always been a very important part of Dead Rising. I have to move this. So all of that is a big part of the beauty of Dead Rising, because the more you play the game, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more likely you are to get the better endings. That not only adds replayability, because by the way, this game has multiple endings, but it also actually rewards you for learning the game and all of its mechanics. That is really cool. And without the timer, none of that would work. It just simply wouldn't have to exist, because you wouldn't have to replay the game to do all of the endings and do all the different things, because you would have infinite time to do everything. So the timer is really necessary. Now, a terrible developer once said this.
It ends up being a thing for me where I'm like, I'm running low on time, and I'm like, I've got 2 survivors, like I got to pick one of the 2, and it's like, well, not getting a perfect run this time, all right.
Yeah.
Like,
and then people say, oh, I could just go play it again.
yeah.
People don't want to play it again to get that one other thing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Now, he's a terrible developer, but he's right. People don't like replaying games. I don't know if they ever did, but they certainly don't really like it now. Most people want to play through the game once, see everything it has to offer, and then move on to the next thing, mostly because of limited time and games are getting bigger and bigger, yada yada yada. But people don't like replaying stuff because it feels like they're wasting their time, especially so just to see a different kind of cutscene, you know, a different ending. Is that really worth the playtime you're putting in? In terms of Dead Rising, yes. But you know, most people won't agree with me. So gamers that are playing Dead Rising for the first time and don't really understand the concept, they're gonna play through it once, find it a rather underwhelming experience because they're not getting the whole package, refusing to play it again and moving on, which kind of sucks. That's really lame. So again, the timer, although a necessary part of Dead Rising, definitely isn't for everyone, and that does kind of alienate people. But then again, a game that is for everyone is for no one. That was a quote from this guy. Yeah. So, what's the solution to this? Well, I don't know. But Capcom Vancouver came pretty close when they released Dead Rising 2 off the record, which was kind of Dead Rising 3, but not really because it's Dead Rising 2. But they released off the record, and this game had a little thing called sandbox mode. Now, you had your normal campaign with the time limit and the survivors and all of that gobbledygook that makes Dead Rising, but now you also have this mode called sandbox, which, well, it's a sandbox. Now, this mode isn't perfect, but it does fix a lot of the issues with Dead Rising. If you want to just explore the mall and have fun instead of saving and ignoring that timer, now you can just jump into this mode and you can do whatever you want. And this mode is full of challenges for you to complete with your friends, psychopaths for you to kill. That's about it, really. It doesn't do a lot. I feel as though they could have expanded it a lot more, but for what it is, it's a very fun sandbox mode. And don't tell anyone, but a lot of my time was spent here. So yeah. So this little maneuver pleased just about everyone. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, I hope the next Dead Rising doesn't include a sandbox mode, because it's really just a win-win. If you like the campaign and you don't want to play sandbox, don't play Sandbox. And hey, if you like Sandbox, great, there's a mode for you. It's called Sandbox. It's pretty cool. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. Now, the cherry on the cake of Sandbox is that your PP that actually transfers to the campaign as well, and vice versa. So any progress you make in Sandbox will also go back to your save game in the campaign, which is useful because you can use it to level up. So people who don't want to replay the game several times to hit level 50 and have all of those cool skills and stuff, you don't have to. You can just play Sandbox and level up. Cool move, Vancouver, cool move. The problem with that, of course, is that that one quest where TK wants you to get $1 million in a few hours, that becomes kind of pointless because you can just go to Sandbox and make that money. So the timer there doesn't really matter. It can break the game. It can break the game. If you wanted to break the game, it can break the game. But I feel like if you do that, then that's kind of on you. You can't really blame the developers because, like, if the developers give you a cheat table, you know, like GTA, you can put in cheats and stuff and you use that, that's kind of on you. So, yeah, I don't know. But before Dead Rising 2 off the record, of course, came Dead Rising 2. Just Dead Rising 2. But before that came Dead Rising 2 Case Zero. Are you confused yet, kid? Well, let me tell you, because Dead Rising 2 Case Zero was fantastic. It was a little demo of Dead Rising 2. It was a little sneak peek of what may come in the future. And it did its job. It did a really good job of hyping me up for the game. I personally replayed the demo about 20 times, pulling that number out of my ass, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like it was 20 times. I played it a lot. I remember waking up early every morning and just jumping on it for a few hours, killing a couple zombies with my paddle saw. It was a fantastic time. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any footage to show you of Dead Rising Case Zero because it's an Xbox exclusive and I can't play it or record it. So, this is just Dead Rising 2 and you're gonna have to deal with that. But Dead Rising Case Zero was set in a very small town and it was basically everything that Dead Rising 2 was, just not in the same setting or with the psychopaths or the story. It was a prequel. It was a small prequel. Okay, well, whatever. This little demo did a lot of things. It introduced you to the new mechanics that Dead Rising 2 was bringing into the series, such as combo weapons, Zombrex, Katie. Yeah, that's it really. But it did a good job of showcasing them and it was really, really fun. So in Case Zero, you play as Chuck Green, the protagonist of Dead Rising 2, and you are on your way to Fortune City with your daughter, Katie. Unfortunately, your car breaks down and you are stranded in this town. Now, there is a guy with a motorcycle and he will repair that motorcycle and send you on your merry way if you get him the, required parts for the bike. So your job is to run around the town scavenging for these parts and bringing them back to the guy while also saving some survivors along the way. The pretty usual Dead Rising experience. But there is a twist. Your daughter Katie is infected and she needs a new drug that is called Zombrex every 24 hours so she doesn't turn into one of those people I hit with my paddle saw.
It's only a matter of time before she turns. Hey, don't worry. I've got Zombrex. Yeah, well, you better have a lot.
So this little demo does two things. First of all, it teaches you the new combo weapons that are going to be introduced in Dead Rising 2, allowing you to find things around the world like you could in Dead Rising 1, but now you can combine them together to make something really cool. And it also introduces the Zombrex mechanic as well, teaching you to scavenge around and look for drugs, because if the world is ending, why be sober? Now, all in all, this game was just kind of a promotional thing. It was a little game that was sold digitally on Xbox. I think it was like £15 or something like that, and it was a very, very short experience set in a small area just to kind of hype people up for Dead Rising 2. It was marketing basically, but it was amazing marketing, and it's something I wish games would do more. I mean, demos exist and they're kind of coming back now, which is really cool, but like this was more than just a demo. It was actually a prequel and there was like more reason for it to exist. I would love it if games did this again. I thought Case Zero was fantastic. A lot of people didn't like it. If you didn't like it, I don't like you. Yeah, so Dead Rising 2, Case Zero, perfect, great game. Okay, let's move on to actually Dead Rising 2 now. So Dead Rising 2, it is basically Dead Rising 1, but it is more polished with new mechanics that fit well into the world. It has a bit of a different tone to it. It's not quite as dark as Dead Rising 1. It's a bit more wacky, leans into the silly side of things, but I personally like that. I know some people don't, but I do. But it's basically, in my opinion, the perfect sequel. Instead of being set in Willamette, we are now set in Fortune City, which is a gambling strip. It's basically Vegas. You walk around, there are casinos everywhere. There are zombies playing the slot machines. You can play mini games that make you money. It's a big gambling area and I love it, and I kind of blame it for my gambling addiction. But seriously, this world just works so well with Dead Rising because you have these like super bright lights everywhere. Everything is super colorful. It just really fits the vibe, I feel, and it lends way to some very, very creative psychopaths, which is something I haven't talked about yet. I should probably talk about the psychopaths. Psychopaths are bosses in Dead Rising. They are basically your video game bosses. They're that. They have really huge amounts of health. They hit really hard. But the cool thing about Dead Rising Psychopaths, the best thing, the really only good thing about Dead Rising Psychopaths is their setup, because Dead Rising is known for creating very, very memorable bosses. And in the original game, we had guys like this, and this, and this, and this. These guys are great. And my favorite boss in Dead Rising, by the way, because someone might ask me this, that is the food guy. I forgot his name. The guy who owns the store, and he's like, "Get out of my store!" That guy. I like that guy. Very excited for him to come in the remake. I just ruined a joke that I'm going to make later on in the video, so forget I said that. But Dead Rising 2, in my opinion, really ups it with the psychopaths, because to me, they are a lot more memorable. Now, this may just be nostalgia talking, because I'm going to get a lot of dislikes for this, but I played Dead Rising 2 a lot more than Dead Rising 1. Part of it was my age. Part of it is just because I kind of prefer Dead Rising 2. Don't hate me, but I do. But the Dead Rising 2 psychopaths to me are incredibly memorable. And the reason for that is because of their stories. So psychopaths are basically just people in the apocalypse who have gone absolutely crazy because of the new zombie outbreak. It makes sense, right? Some of them were crazy before. Yeah. But most of them become crazy because of the zombie apocalypse, and that sets up to some very interesting premises. For example, there is a boss fight in Dead Rising 2 where you tame a tiger. Straight up, you can just throw steak at a tiger and tame it because it's a tiger and it's starting to eat people and zombies, and the keeper of the tiger has gone insane because he was getting bullied a lot, and it's quite a sad story actually, but you end up killing the guy, then you can tame the tiger. That's really cool. I love that. That was a really cool, memorable boss for me. As well as that, you also have this thing. This guy, Slappy here, scared the absolute shit out of me as a kid and still does. I'm too scared to turn around right now. Slappy is such a memorable character because of his face to me, and that was the absolute creepiest part of him. The actual boss fight is kind of silly. He just rides around on roller skates and you can drop kick him and he'll fall off, which is kind of funny. That's a tactic to use, by the way, if you're fighting him. Just keep jump kicking him and he will keep falling over and you will win. But he is a terrifying design and he's been stuck in my head and haunting my dreams for the last 15 years. Anyway, contrary to what I just said, I actually hate fighting almost all of these guys. Again, there are a few exceptions in here that I think were pretty fun. The store guy I think is pretty fun to fight, and Snowflake the tiger is also pretty fun because you can tame her and take her back as a survivor. That's really cool. The rest of them kinda suck to fight because they are just typical video game bosses. They have a ton of health, they don't really flinch or take damage, and they will just keep hitting you, and it sucks and it's not fun. And the game is very clunky, so it's very difficult to control what you're doing and try and do what you do. The best tactic for defeating 90% of these guys is to literally just get a gun and just start shooting, just start spraying. I did that for every single psychopath in Dead Rising 1 when I replayed it earlier this year, and I also did it for Dead Rising 2 because it works. It's just the tactic to do because nothing else seems to work. So the psychopaths aren't perfect, but they are so memorable and so interesting to see. And again, it's one of the most exciting parts about playing a new Dead Rising is wondering what psychopaths are going to be hidden in the world, because it's just fun to see, you know, what they come up with. And they also have really cool soundtracks, so while you are getting your ass kicked, you can listen to this.
Oh my god!
Or if you're playing Dead Rising 1, you can hear this.
Reel it in before I keelhaul ya! Oh no.
And start to get some PTSD flashbacks. But Dead Rising 2 also introduced a co-op to the franchise, and this was the best thing that they ever could have done. 100% the reason I have so much playtime in Dead Rising 2 is because of the co-op. If it didn't have co-op, I would have nowhere near the amount of hours that I do. Co-op just works so well with this type of game because of the wackiness and the trouble that you can get into with your friends. It just fits, and it's just the absolute perfect game for co-op, and it was such a great decision. Fighting those annoying psychopaths that aren't very fun to fight suddenly become a lot more enjoyable when your friend is standing in the corner with a water gun spraying at a couple of zombies trying to keep them back while the, tiger goes to pounce on him. Yeah, it's fun. It's a really great time in co-op. If you haven't played Dead Rising 2 co-op, go do it because it's a good time. But yeah, Dead Rising 2 to me was the perfect sequel. It kept true to what made Dead Rising so great while also adding some new mechanics that fit the franchise very well and will later be carried forward into future games. It was literally the definition of a sequel done perfectly. So, yeah, after Dead Rising 2, Capcom Vancouver were riding on a high, and of course they released Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, which was basically a DLC where you play as the protagonist from Dead Rising 1. It's basically the same story with some minor changes. All of the dialogue is rewritten to fit the new character and stuff. It's cool, it's definitely worth playing, and I'm glad that we got it because of course it added sandbox mode as well. But what would Capcom Vancouver do next, I hear you ask? Well, surely they would work on Dead Rising 3, right? That is exactly what they did. I don't know why I paused there, but yeah, that is exactly what they did. But surely it would be good, right? See, that was a good use of a pause because it's not good, it's bad. It's really bad. Now, I'm not going to spend a long time talking about Dead Rising 3 because I only played it once when it originally released and I refuse to go back and play it again. That is why all the footage that you are seeing now is Dead Rising 2 because I am not going to play that game again to get footage. I'm just not going to. Deal with it. Now, whereas Dead Rising 2 didn't really change much, it made it more colorful, it made it more wacky and added some new features. Dead Rising 3 did the complete opposite. It changed just about everything. This game does not feel like Dead Rising to me. It is no longer set in a cool, small area. It is now set in a big grey city. Combo weapons can now be crafted absolutely anywhere, meaning you no longer need to use anything you can find because you can just craft the most badass weapons on the spot. The map was designed by a 5-year-old with roadblocks just placed randomly everywhere and a highway system that is less enjoyable than a doctor sticking his finger up your ass. Dead Rising 3 for me through and through was just a terrible experience. I liked none of it. Now, okay, maybe I'm being too mean. As a game, it's not bad, but it just feels like a very generic zombie game. It doesn't feel like Dead Rising, and to me that was incredibly disappointing and still is today. Now, there are a lot of people who love Dead Rising 3 and consider it a part of an epic trilogy. I disagree with you. I also do not like you. But I kind of accept your opinion because I have to, because we live in a free world, unfortunately. But to me, Dead Rising 3 just sucked. It was where everything started to change. They changed everything. You can no longer escort survivors in Dead Rising 3. That is something I haven't talked about. I forgot to write it in the script of this video. But in Dead Rising 1 and 2, you could escort survivors. In fact, it was kind of a staple of the series. Throughout your game, you would find survivors scattered around the mall, which you would have to escort back to the safe room. Doing so would give you PP, and it would also, that was it really. It would give you PP, and you would see them in the safe room. Dead Rising 3 takes that away. There is no safe room. Now, you help survivors, and they just disappear. Bye-bye. It sucks. It isn't Dead Rising. I didn't like it. If you like it, you're wrong. Yeah, we're gonna move on. So, Dead Rising 1 was amazing and started my favorite franchise of all time. Dead Rising 2 was the perfect sequel, adding a bunch of new mechanics and cool things in a new setting, giving a new story and a new breath of life to the franchise. Dead Rising 3 sucked. So, where do we go from here? What did Capcom Vancouver do next? Surely they looked at Dead Rising 3 and said, wow, we went a little too far. Let's get back on track and make Dead Rising 4 the greatest Dead Rising of all time. No, they committed to the changes, and yeah. I guess we need to talk about Dead Rising 4. Or no, we don't, because as I'm standing here recording this video, I actually wrote a whole section about Dead Rising 4 and the things I hate, but I'm not going to read it. I'm just not going to do it because I don't think it deserves the time of day. I don't think it deserves the energy to be spent on, to talk about. You know, I could spend that energy eating spaghetti, or talking about eating spaghetti, or eating a cookie, or making a YouTube channel where I review different kinds of food. Or a YouTube channel where I make different kinds of food. I could be the next Gordon Ramsay. So we are not going to talk about Dead Rising 4 because this was the game that killed the franchise. That's all you need to know. It's horrible. We're not talking about this. We're ending the video. So yeah, in conclusion, we got two great games that became my favorite franchise of all time and my greatest childhood memories, which Capcom Vancouver then drove down a rocky cliff into the bottom of a running river. Thank you guys. And now the franchise is completely and utterly dead. Wait, what's that? Do you hear?
Remember that name, because the whole world's gonna know it in 3 days.
Oh my god, it's finally here! Doctor! I've always wanted a Surgeon Simulator sequel. But no, really, Doctor has finally been announced. You know, I've had a ongoing little game with my friend where every E3 I predict the Dead Rising remake is gonna be at every single showcase. Of course, it never has been. And then Capcom decided for some reason to just announce this on a random Wednesday. Just for no reason. I will say though, that loading up YouTube and just seeing this video pop up was the shock of my life. So thank you, Capcom. Thank you so much for finally doing this. I've been waiting for so long. We have heard rumors of this for years. Now it is finally happening. I'm so excited. We've seen gameplay, we've seen the new, not new features, but we've seen how the game will be. I'm overly excited for this game. This has single-handedly, very quickly become my most anticipated game of the year. I will be making a YouTube video about this, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that, because this drops in September. I had to rush this video out because I needed to get it out before this came out so that I could make a video on this. So yeah. It's happening, guys. Dead Rising, Doctor, it is here. Something that I also kind of find funny is that the the remake is called Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. I bought the digital edition because I really want to support this project and I want more Dead Rising. So the game that I have sitting in my Steam library is Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster Digital Deluxe Edition. That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? So, what's the moral of this video? Why did I stand here making this for the last hour or so? Well, I don't know. Entertainment value, I guess. I thought it would be fun. I just wanted to talk about Dead Rising because it is my favorite franchise of all time, and I wanted to share that with you guys. And if you're still here right now, then I have done my job. You have been entertained. And if you're not here right now, then fuck you. And I can say that without consequences because you are not here to see me say it. But to those of you that are here right now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking all of this out. I hope that you enjoyed it at least a little bit. And I will probably be back here in about a month or so talking about something. I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. I also plan on making gaming content in the future as well because I used to do that and that seems like fun again. So I will probably be doing that. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of that because maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be bad. If it's bad, you can just unsubscribe later. So why don't you just subscribe right now? Right now. Go press the button right now. I'm not ending this video until you subscribe. Go and subscribe right now. I'm not waiting any longer. Subscribe. Okay, so here we are. It's the end of the video. It's just me and you now. We can talk. This is behind the scenes. I don't even need this screen anymore. I can walk around as freely as I want because it's just us. So I made this video because wow, I wanted to do something a bit more creative. That is why I bought this entire green screen. I want to do creative videos again, because the videos that I was doing previously, they were doing pretty well in terms of views, and I know a lot of you liked those videos and there was a lot of interactivity, and that was awesome. But I found them really boring. They weren't challenging me, they weren't doing anything fun with my time. It was something I thought was a good idea, and then I very quickly grew bored of. So I'm trying this whole thing out, and I'm hoping that this works. I'm hoping that you enjoyed it, because I want to make these more creative videos where I put a bit more effort into the script. I do a little show, you know, I try to get some laughs out of it. I hope you guys do enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, I do have gaming content coming out, which is going to be kind of in a similar style. If you've watched General Sam, I'm kind of going to be basically trying to do that. I'm just going to shamelessly steal from him. I mean, what's he going to do about it, right? He's in America. I'm in the UK, so good luck. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to be doing that sort of content, and just kind of just having fun with this channel a bit, trying to do some very fun creative stuff. So I hope you guys did enjoy it. On a real note, I really hope you did. And on a more personal note, I would just like to say thank you to a very certain friend of mine, because I was feeling a bit down and I wasn't really feeling motivated to make YouTube content or do anything interesting. But we had a nice little chat about that, and it kind of motivated me to go along with getting this and to actually just get up in front of the camera and just start making stuff again. So thank you to that person. You know who you are. I really appreciate that talk, and again, just kind of encouraging me to get productive again. It helped a lot, so thank you. Thank you all for watching. I really did hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, I will see you in about a month or so.